Hello and welcome to Devin's presentation of building a tablet. First, I'll start off by showing you the parts and telling you what they do. Okay. These right here, these are the buttons that you have to install inside the outer edge on the inside of the tablet. This is the Wi-Fi antenna. You have to solder and install onto the motherboard. These are your antennas, not antennas, my bad. These are the speakers that you have to solder onto the motherboard to have sound on the tablet. These are the wire mesh cards for the speakers that you install on the inside of the back cover to protect from dust and pollutants getting inside of it. This is your micro SD card reader that you have to install with screws and solder onto the motherboard for connectivity. These two things are your camera parts. They are used to put in the lens of the camera and its protective screen. This little thing is a little mesh you put on the camera to space it from the back thing so that it stays in place. This little thing is your 4 wires that connect your speaker buttons to your motherboard. These are the speaker buttons that are installed and connected to the motherboard. This is the camera, which that little square mesh thing helps support, and that mesh thing goes right there on that white square. This is your sheet you put over your processor and your laptop to keep it cool and from getting too hot and overheating. These are your mounting brackets that help keep everything in place and stable. This one and this one are used on the top. Are used on the top of the tablet to keep it stable. This one's used on the side to keep the screen stable. This is used on the camera to keep it in place and square. These are the screws we use to secure everything down. And then it comes to this. This is our motherboard that we're using. And this wire and little black circle thing, that's our microphone for our tablet, which then later gets installed into a little black hole on the case. And right here, the square area, is where our thermal pad goes to keep all this stuff from overheating. This is our battery for our tablet. This is the double-sided sticky tape that you have to uncover later on to secure it to the back of the screen. This battery needs to be soldered onto the tablet, or not tablet, but the motherboard to give it energy. And show the picture twice. Okay, this is our tablet monitor or screen display. This is the connecting wire for it. This is our protective screen and front of the case for the tablet. And this is the tablet's charger, and this is the tablet's connector for connecting to PC to upload photos or download photos or music. And this is the back of the case with the speaker slots right there. And here I put the speaker protective mesh in them to keep the dust and particles out of them. These things right here, you have to be careful when you pull them off because they didn't like to come. They didn't like to hold on to the adhesive. The adhesive rather would stick to the plastic. So it took me a couple of tries to try to get the wire mesh to keep its adhesive for the covering. And here we have this silver ring that we install. We put it in there and it doesn't snap or nothing, it just sits in there. And so after you push that in there, you got to hold it in there and go back with the soldering iron and solder down, melt these plastic rods and into the case to keep it secure. Then you go back and peel off the sticky side of the camera lens and push it in there and secure it Once you've done that, you go to the front of the case and you find the slots to where your back button and your volume buttons go, and then your power button and your audio jack. And then we went ahead and installed that back button, those volume button pieces. Then we installed the power button piece. And then after we did that, we installed the thermal distributor cover onto the processor and its parts. And then we installed the display into the front of the case, and you have to kind of snap it in there because it has these little screws on it. Be careful not to push too hard and mess up the display. Once you've done that, you have to slide the motherboard in from like an angle, as you can see, so that it can go into all the slots down here, and then you just gently lay it down. Once you've done that, you have to get the yellow wire right here, lift this black bar up, put the black part of that yellow wire in there, and then close it down and clamp it and connects it to the screen. Sorry. And then you secure the volume bar onto you secure the volume bar behind the buttons that we put in earlier into it, next to the bracket support for the motherboard to keep it down. And then after you do that, you secure the motherboard in place with this screw. But when you install the screw, you have to hold the power button in and screw it down. And once you're done screwing it down, you let go of the power button and you click it to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, you have to like unscrew it again and try. But don't do that too many times because then you'll strip the threading of the screw hole. And then go back to the volume buttons. Right here, you can see how like the difference between the screen monitor and the volume bar are different. If you don't pay attention to this, it can cause problems with the volume buttons. Like they won't click and work because they'll just be constantly pushed down. So what you have to do right here is you have to like unscrew it and then readjust it. But then sometimes it won't work like that, so you have to kind of like push it back or pry it back against the thing so that it has room for the buttons to work properly. That's one of the difficulties I had with like mine and my friends next to me. And then as you see, once you get that first screw installed, you go back and install these next two screws to secure the motherboard. And then once you got that screw down, you go back and secure it with this motherboard secure, and then you go back and secure the display with this one and this one on the side, and these two on the top. Once you got done with that, you go ahead and, since the motherboard's secure now and the screen's secured, you install the micro SD card reader, screw it down and secure it with that, making sure it's in line. And then that mic, which I forgot to take a picture of, goes right here in this circle. So you want to put that mic in before you install that micro SD card reader. And then next on, we move on to soldering. So first you want to practice soldering with you want to solder the speaker wires first. And the black is positive, and the red's positive, the black is negative on both of them. So I had a little difficulty with this because when I tried to solder, it wouldn't get onto the pad, so I had like giant blob solder. After a while, I figured it out that you had to like put it on there and heat it up, and it would just stick to the metal on the thing instead of just making a big blob on the wire. Once I got used to it, I was able to get each one of these without having giant blobs of solder. And then we go on next, we solder the Wi-Fi antenna onto it with the soldering iron. And the last thing you want to solder onto the thing is the sorry, Last thing we're going to solder onto is the battery. And as was before, the red's positive and black's negative. And you want to solder those on, the last thing you solder on, because then it has power running through the board. And that's all the soldering we had to do for our tablets. We were supposed to solder the volume and the SD card, but it was really small and really close together, so it was harder for us to achieve, so our professor told us not to do it. And once you got everything, this is what it looks like once you got everything secured and soldered and connected. And these two spots are where the speakers go, so the next step, what I did was took off these white pieces of covers that cover the adhesive for the speakers, take that off and install the speakers into their proper positions right here. And then once I did that, I installed the cameras of the tablets. That's that camera piece we had before. You lift the black bar and clamp it back down. Once that is finished, you want to put this camera piece into its proper hole right there, and then put this one down. And there's that bracket I showed you earlier, the square one with the circle. You put it on top of this, and you snap it into place. So go like they would have prongs to go in that hole, and they would just hang on to the edges. And then that little silver sponge you put on the back of this to give it spacing between, give it less spacing between the cover and that thing, so it wouldn't move out of spot. And then you take out the adhesive off of the antenna. Once you got the adhesive off of that, you'd stick it down to the edge of that and onto the back of the monitor to give it, like, amplify its range and get to where it can not be in the way of other parts. Then once you're done, you'd snap the cover on like so, and this is what the back of it would look like once it's completely finished. And this is my tablet working. Throughout my project, the only problems I really had were, first off, starting to solder, kind of figuring that out, and then some of it was mostly just like pieces being slightly off and the button's not working. But that was easy to fix. Got around that. All in all, the tablet wasn't that hard to use, or not use, but that hard to make. To me, it was a really fun project. I'm glad I got the opportunity to do it, and it was a good learning experience. I hope I have more chances in the future to build stuff with hardware and continue learning knowledge about technology. Thank you everybody for watching my video on me building my tablet. Thanks for your time. See you later.